Good evening, and welcome to Hello, It's Us, Perspectives on Inclusion. This program is dedicated to educating the general public about issues that are important to people with disabilities. And we hope that you viewers discover that these issues are just as important to the general public, since people with disabilities are amongst us, and we're living proof of that here today. Hello, It's Us is brought to you through a collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and the good people here at Public Access TV. My name is Mike Connick, and I work for the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development. I'm a program coordinator there, and I serve as a co-host for Hello, It's Us. Keith?
My name is Keith Ross. I'm the other co-host, and I'm retired now, but very active in the disability community. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, this is our second. We're happy to have our second installment of programming on National Disability Employment Awareness Month. It's always a fun time to get together and talk about a subject that's near and dear to all of our hearts, I think. And in studio today, we have two women who are going to talk with us some more about employment and the work that their agencies do. Monica, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll turn it over to Cochelle, and then we'll just jump right into the program here.
All right, thanks, Mike. I'm Monica Brockway. I am the supervisor here in Iowa City for Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services.
And I'm Cochelle Weber-Rickliff. I'm the employment specialist with the Department for the Blind.
Excellent. So we're going to start out, we had a very enriching discussion about services that the two agencies provide last week. So for those of you who didn't have the opportunity to see us, I would recommend that you find that episode on YouTube, because it'll provide a lot of information, background information that will go along with what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to start off with today is talking about Voc Rehab and the Department for the Blind in terms of how people get referred to your agencies. And I'm sure there are many different ways that happens. And Monica, why don't you go ahead and start us off with that, and then we'll just keep the discussion flowing here.
Sure, so I can talk a little bit about referral and that process. We actually receive referrals from a number of different sources. So we serve both businesses and job candidates. We are in all 99 counties and public schools. So we often get calls from teachers, parents, and or businesses who are working directly with a person with a disability who might be struggling at their job, or maybe they just have not identified the appropriate accommodation and would like some assistance at their work site directly working with that person. So we have people walk in off the street who want to learn more about our services, and they're a person with a disability who think they might be eligible. And we, like I said, we just get a variety of different sources contacting us, inquiring about services that might be appropriate for people that they're working with.
Great. It's nice to know they have walk-ins too. I think that's always an interesting way of accessing the service system, and shows your openness to that. So, Cochelle?
Our referral at the Department for the Blind, it comes from self-referral, it comes from family members, school districts, it comes from doctors. We look at those referrals, how we can help those individuals. IVRS sometimes refers clients to us because of the visual impairments that are proposed during their intake. So we work with them on that also, and we determine who has the best or more appropriate services for them. And once those referrals come through our online intake form, then they're distributed to the correct counselor in the area that's being served.
Great. Go, Keith. Got a question there?
I have a question. What, if any, new careers usually open up since the inception of ADA.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah. So we have seen, obviously, advancement in technology over the last few years, and I can just kind of talk about a job candidate working in a large technology firm here in the area who had a cognitive disability. And we were able to work with some pretty new technology that allowed this person to access that job that probably 5 or 10 years ago would not have been possible. So we utilize screen read technology, text-to-speech technology, and work directly with that business to understand the dynamics of the job and how technology can interface, within their working world so that the person can do the job.
That's great. You know, it's interesting you mentioned screen reading technology. I just have to throw this in because I work with someone who uses it, who is not blind, but who also has a cognitive disability. And we have had some times when our screen readers are talking to each other, and it's pretty cool actually. And he's been able to do so much more because he has access to technology. And when it goes down, of course, then it's a huge problem. But it's amazing what doors have opened because of technology.
I am actually going to mirror Monica on this. Is information technology career positions have opened up many doors for our clients. And again, it's the technology that's involved. One of our clients graduated from Iowa State University as an engineer. He is currently employed in Cedar Rapids for a smaller firm, but they really wanted him to come work for them, because he had the open box, or he just didn't think inside the box more than anything, and they loved that about him when he interviewed. But he also showed them during the interview how to use some of their software that they didn't even know how to use. So I think that kind of won him over too.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a bright individual, and he's one of my favorites to work with. But in the sense of that too is he has grown leaps and bounds over the last year with his confidence and his abilities, and he's learned more things about technology that'll help him in his engineering position. And he just finished a huge project for this company that'll allow them to potentially sell this piece of equipment at a huge profit and be able to patent it and secure their business's future also, so that it can go a long time here on out.
I have a feeling he's got some pretty good job security going on.
Yeah, he's so smart. He is very smart. So I think he will go far. He's young and ambitious, and that's the cool part.
That's great. So, on a related note then, what do we, and you don't obviously have to get down to the exact percentage, but because I don't know that it's possible to do that, but what are your best estimates, and whoever wants to answer this can in terms of the unemployment rate among people with disabilities in the U.S. and how that compares to the general public? I'm
going to let Monica answer this because we coordinated this before the show.
Sure.
So she has a right there.
Nice.
Okay, take it. So in Iowa, people with disabilities ages 18 to 64, the numbers hover right around 170,000 people. Of those, 55% are working, at least part-time.
Oh.
And we rank number 8 in the nation, actually, of states with the number of people with disabilities working, because the national average is actually 34%, and we're at 55%. So we're doing really, really well. Iowa and our partnerships through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which we can talk about, IDB and VR, we work very closely together. And that's really allowed us to be creative in how we approach employment with people with disabilities. So we're really proud of those numbers. And Coachelle, did you have anything to add?
I just wanted to put us out there for the national statistics, is that nationally 8% of people with disabilities are unemployed compared to the 3.7 that are non-disabled as of 2013, or I'm sorry, 2018. So that's another thing to take into consideration. But as we're going forward, that number's really changing, and Iowa's way ahead of the game compared to the rest of the nation, and including people with barriers and disabilities to be employed and giving them those opportunities. And again, it comes back to our partnerships and ensuring that these employers have those resources in front of them and know that this labor pool exists.
Well, it certainly sounds like an improvement over when back in when the ADA was passed. We used to hear a lot of 70% unemployment rate among people with disabilities. So this is a big step in the right direction, or at least a trend in the right direction. That I shouldn't say step, because it's obviously been going on. Improvements have been being made over the past 30 years, and even before that, when you think about it, with what VR and the department have been able to do. But it is nice to see those unemployment numbers coming down.
Mike, I really do think that's part of the ID. Sorry.
Let me cough then.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Mike, I really do contribute that to the partnerships that we've created within IDB, VR. Those partnerships are critical in getting in front of those employers and showing them that. And that's a trend I think that will continue, and it won't stop, because there are people that we work with that are more passionate than Monica or I are about this, in allowing those opportunities to be brought forward for people.
So you mentioned, since we're on the topic of partnerships, you certainly mentioned the department, with the two of you collaborating, the two agencies, and a little bit about WIOA, which I assume that goes through workforce development, right? Is that right?
Correct.
And are there other partnerships at the state level that have happened over the course of the past few years, or is it more at the local level, or a little bit of both, would you say?
We work as a local, we call it a WIOA team, to identify resources within our region. In this region, we work with Kirkwood Community College and Iowa Workforce Development, and also some ancillary partners with HUD on our housing, and with some nonprofit agencies, so that we can better network and align services for people with disabilities. Of course, as we work with each individual, we identify gaps, and those gaps create barriers to employment. They're not always disability related. They could be transportation, it could be funding for rent, something like that. And so we need to really understand outlets in the community and resources in the community to best serve our job candidates.
And then some of beyond just those regional, because I do cover a larger territory than the regional, but I'm centered here. We work with the 4+ program.
Oh,
we
yeah.
also work with Easter Seals around assistive technology. For blind Iowans, we have the Dale Carnegie program, and we also work with the Braille School in order to ensure that we are giving those opportunities where they're needed, and ensuring that those resources are there.
No, it's really, having worked in the field a long time ago now, it was, let's see, I guess it would have been almost 30 years since I worked in the field. And there really obviously has been a paradigm shift from moving, at one point, I can't speak for VR so much because we partnered, but I was a rehab teacher, so I didn't work a lot directly with VR counselors. I did work closely with the Department for the Blind counselors, and this is not a criticism or anything like that, but at the time, I think we saw ourselves in large part as sort of an entity unto ourselves, that we were sort of a one-stop shop. And we certainly made contacts with other programs, and particularly within the independent living program. I worked a lot with, visiting nurse programs and homemaker health programs and things like that. But the idea of partnering with Easter Seals and partnering, having these coalitions, working with housing, Monica, that you mentioned, it seems like from the time when I was active in the field, that there's been a shift toward really developing those partnerships and seeing the individual client or consumer as more in a holistic fashion than maybe it was 30 years ago.
I think that's a great point, and when we talk about people with disabilities, we see a larger percentage of people with disabilities living in poverty, and I think our goal really not only is to help them find a job, but really to live independently and have a high quality of life. So it just goes beyond finding that entry-level job, but it's building those skills that are transferable, that will allow them to grow and learn and be in a job that's enjoyable. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to work and enjoy it, and that's our goal.
Do either one of you, when you vote before, you said your Iowa is number 8. Is there a reason why, considering we're a very rural state?
I think the reason that we're number 8 is because of our collaborations. I will 100% support that, in the sense that when we find a position for a person, or they find it and they need help sustaining that employment, rural Iowa has a transportation issue that's huge, like you just indicated. However, we look at other options. Are there work at home options? Is there somebody that's going to work in that area that can carpool if they don't have transportation? My serving blind Iowans, they don't drive. So how do they get to work? That's got to be creative. Do they live in larger metropolitans? If so, is their transportation readily available versus smaller metropolitans even that don't have the busing system, but maybe they have a taxi service that's available at a reasonable rate that won't take their hourly wages away? Those are all huge questions that not only when we find a position for a client, we really look at the bigger picture. Can they afford the transportation, or is it eating up so much that they can't afford to work? And if that's the case, then what do we do differently? I know I have a client that works at the hotel in Cedar Rapids, Kirkwood Hotel, and she works at night. She doesn't get off work sometimes till 10, 11 o'clock at night. She can't drive. She lives 2 miles away from the Kirkwood Hotel. She's a young, very attractive woman, and she doesn't want to be walking home that time, and she doesn't have any fear, of course, because she's young. But there is transportation services in Cedar Rapids for those after hours that we have found for her, and it works well. And she's able to maintain her employment, still go to school at Kirkwood, and get her college education that she needs. So we look at the bigger picture, not just you've got a job, you applied, you interviewed, you got the job, congratulations. But now how do you get there? How do you do all those things?
Those are really important factors, and I can see, rural being a rural state, we could just say, oh, well, we've got an excuse not to be doing so well, or we can do like Iowa has obviously done, and that's figure out how to make collaborations work. So since you mentioned transportation, Cochelle, I know that's, obviously from personal experience, Keith and I have both dealt with that. That's certainly a barrier to employment. What are some of the other barriers that the two of you still notice in terms of people with disabilities and getting jobs in the community.
Sure, so I can talk a little bit about that. We work with folks who we define as having the most significant disabilities. So somebody who might need a long-term job coach to work successfully in the community would need to rely on funding through a Medicaid waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as you know, in Iowa, we've gone through some changes with Medicaid privatization, and there have been quite a few changes for our job candidates with their case managers. And so sometimes we don't know who to contact to communicate their needs, and that's been a struggle. The good thing is, the fortunate piece is that we have a great relationship with our region and county funders, and so if we're not able to change their individual support plans and acquire funding very quickly, sometimes we're able to bridge the gap through the region until we can get those things sorted out. But that's been a hiccup that we've been working through recently, and we continue to work through as we change the way that we do things in Medicaid.
Yeah, that's been a barrier for so many people. I mean, it's just it's tough, and we're glad that we have people like you that are out there trying to work within the system as best you possibly can. How about and Cochelle, I don't know if you were going to add another barrier, but one of the things that may still be a part of this issue is the whole idea of employer perceptions of people with disabilities. Is there still a problem out there? Is it better than it was? Where do you think we?
I think we're working on it. I don't think it's not there, obviously. We just had a reverse job fair where the candidates set up like what you think the businesses normally do that are hiring people. So at this reverse job fair in Des Moines, the client had their skills out there for people, resumes, was able to talk to an employer. The employer hired our candidate right there, interviewed him. The candidate went to work, showed up to where he was told to go. The supervisor said a blind person couldn't work there and let it go.
Oh.
So there's been, it was a huge letdown, especially for our client. But after the HR person who hired our client went back to the supervisor, then, they're trying to work everything out, but, that HR person really got the message, really understood that this person has the skills that they need, the dedication, but yet the supervisor hadn't been educated on diversity, I guess, you could say, and it really didn't realize what a person with a barrier like blindness can really do, and wasn't willing to listen. So you may have part of that business believing in a blind person or even a barrier, but you can tell to that supervisor, and sometimes that teaching isn't there yet. So yes, it exists, and it's heartbreaking when it occurs.
That's a rough story.
Yes,
I can see how it happened.
It was so exciting, reverse job fair. Those people put a lot of work into selling themselves.
Oh, yeah.
We work with several agencies. It's not just the Department for the Blind. VR does it. There's several agencies in Des Moines that work with that, and a lot of time and effort and training, just to sell yourself appropriately at a job fair where the employer's coming to you instead of you going to the employer. So, and to have that get hired right there in the spot and then show up for work and the supervisor says no.
And some creative things we can do. Cochelle and I have partnered with businesses on what we call on-the-job trainings. So it gives the employee an opportunity to work that job, basically no strings attached, and Voc Rehab pays their wage during that training period, which can be up to 8 weeks. So the hope is that they would perform the job, learn the job over that period of time, and then the employer would see the value and hire them. Doesn't always work that way, but we here in Iowa City, we have 100% success rate with our on-the-job trainings. We also work with Iowa Works and help employers fill out the WOTC tax credit for
Oh.
hiring. And that provides a 65% tax credit for wages. Wages work within that first 12 months of employment. So we can help them fill out the paperwork and send it in and make sure that they understand that the benefit, there's a real benefit for hiring a person with a disability.
Terrific. And we're quickly running out of time again, and I was curious, and this may be catching you on the spot a little bit, but since we are doing these episodes in conjunction with National Disability Employment Awareness Month, I'm wondering if either or both IDB and IVRS do something or do things to acknowledge in some way or other the October is NDEAM. And if you don't, that's okay too.
Well, I'm quite busy during NDAM month.
Are you?
So is Monica, but since I cover a larger territory, we have employer panels scheduled. We have transition trainings with Dale Carnegie for our clients to participate in and to really showcase how individuals in transition age 14 to 24 can really participate in their college and job searches. We work with community partners in educating people out in the community, and we have numerous job fairs scheduled with not only just IDB and VR, but we have AmeriCorps participating, we have the VA participating, and a couple other community partners along with that. And that's just, that last piece is just in this area. But across the state, it's pretty similar.
I should have known that you were going to have something going on. That's great.
I am booked for the whole month of October already.
Monica, what do you have going on?
Here in Iowa City, we've not set the date yet, so you'll want to check into www.ivrs.iowa.gov. It'll be posted there when we finalize information. But we use NDEAM as an opportunity to showcase and highlight our business partnerships. And we usually identify the top employers in our area and then provide them an opportunity to share the value-added benefit of hiring people with disabilities in a community event.
So, as we kind of wrap up here, you sort of jumped into the last question, which I was going to ask, and that is in terms of contacting your agency. So it sounds like one way for VR is obviously ivrs.iowa.gov, right? And I assume there's probably, well, in fact, I know there is a list of offices. That's one way of reaching you, right? And then
That's correct.
another way would be, is there a self-referral online, or is it best always for them to call the office? And
Self-referral forms are online. You can connect to us online. We also have a state number, and I do receive referrals directly from the Des Moines number. There's no wrong door, so you can walk into our office. We're in Eastdale Plaza in the southeast side of Iowa City, and the Cedar Rapids office is in Lindale Mall, in the basement of Lindale Mall. All of our locations and contact information are posted on our website, so please reach out.
And the department, what's the best way for people that want to get in touch with?
We have a website also. It's www.blindiowa.gov, and that'll lead you to all our information for referrals, contacts, and everything else.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Well, thank you so much. I knew this was going to go fast, and it did. But I love talking about employment, and obviously, and Keith does, and obviously you do also. So thank you so much for joining us for our two-part series. We obviously would also like to thank all of you who have tuned in either via the PATV channel or through YouTube. And we again want to acknowledge and thank our sponsors. And Keith, we'll turn it over to you to take us home here.
Thank you, both of you, for coming. And have a good week out there. Bye now.